Neil Blomkamp makes the same film for the third time? You're watching Beyond the Trailer's review of Chappie.
Your little robot's a big problem for me.
A thinking robot could be the end of mankind. Destroy that robot. Burn it to ash.
Something of great danger headed our way now.
I don't want to die. I want to live. If you want to survive, Chappie, you must fight.
Just last week, Neil Blomkamp made headlines admitting that Elysium was a crappy movie. Will he say the same of Chappie a year from now? Those who starred in Elysium might say Blomkamp has a big mouth, but it's that big mouth which has already landed him his next gig, a new Alien movie. Yes, while he was promoting Chappie, he decided to use that time not to talk about the film, but to show off concept art for the Alien film he'd like to make. Fox and Ridley Scott saw the headlines and Blomkamp's dream became a reality. But if Blomkamp and the media are already focused on his Alien film, Sigourney Weaver says she'd love to do it, where does that leave Chappie? Weaver, by the way, co-stars in Chappie, as do Hugh Jackman and Dev Patel. That's a pretty awesome cast. Yet the trailer focuses more on Chappie, voiced by Blomkamp's real-life friend and creative partner Charlton Copley, and Dee Antwoord, the South African rap-rave group who have a cult following. Yet surely Sony isn't looking for cult following level box office here. Perhaps Yolandi Visser would be more of a draw if she hadn't turned down the lead role in David Fincher's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which she says they offered her when the film was first coming together. It is admirable that Blomkamp hasn't given up on trying to shine a spotlight on his South African roots, filming in his homeland as well as casting local talent like Copley and Dee Antwoord. But it undeniably gives all his films a sameness about them. Surely there's more to South Africa than a bleak dystopian future. Maybe he should ask the South African Tourism Board to come on as a consultant for his next film, Alien, which will likely also take place in South Africa and feature Copley. But perhaps a good sign for Chappie is that Blomkamp's screenwriter wife, who worked with him on District 9 but sat out for Elysium, returns here. But the question remains, what exactly makes Chappie stand out from Blomkamp's other work, as well as all the other recent artificial intelligence movies? So far, the trailers don't seem to be able to answer that question. Can the movie itself?
Sequel! 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 Man! I realize I'm in the vast minority here, but I loved this movie. I think we might have a bit of a speed racer situation here, where some of the larger themes and ambitions are lost on people because they're so turned off by some of the creative choices. And also what I feel is a very misleading ad campaign. This film is set up very poorly for audiences. Such a shame. Also, I have to say, sadly, while Chappie is betrayed by many a human in the film, I think he's also been betrayed by Neil Blomkamp, who really just cast him aside in favor of going after that Alien gig. And I understand that Neil Blomkamp has a career to look after, and he succeeded. He got the Alien gig, as we discussed in the open. But I wish that he just defended Chappie a little bit more instead of abandoning him to the wilds of public opinion. I've also seen a lot of people complain about some of the scientific shortcuts that this movie takes. I didn't think it took that many. But at the same time, it's science fiction, so I don't quite understand why people aren't giving it the allowances that they usually afford science fiction. So what are some of the larger themes and ambitions that I think people might be missing with this film? Well, I think it does a fascinating job of exploring nature versus nurture, also, though, our soul and mortality. Now, those are some pretty heavy themes and perhaps a bit darker than people are expecting or want to go with a popcorn film. And again, that's where I really blame the advertising campaign. Because I think they make, when you see the campaign, you're like, why is Chappie hanging out with all these weird guys? But the setup for the film is so great of, the scientists and these criminals who are like on a collision path, and Chappie gets caught in the middle of that, and it changes everybody for, you could say for the better, but certainly forever. And I think that that's a great setup, which isn't conveyed at all in the advertising. So hopefully, if you watch this review, you'll go in being a little bit better positioned to appreciate the film. Now, one exchange that really stuck with me was between Chappie and his maker, played by Dev Patel. And Chappie is a robot, as you can see from the trailer, is set for to be destroyed because he's faulty. Basically, his battery is fused with his chest cavity, so the battery can't be replaced. So, this isn't a spoiler because it's divulged at the beginning of the movie, but he's a ticking clock. Once the battery runs out, Chappie will be no more. So he asks Dev Patel, he says, "Why did you create me just to die?" And I was like, man, truth bomb, because that's so applicable, of course, to the human condition, and something we so often find ourselves asking God or whatever you think the powers might be are. And I thought the way Chappie just asked it so innocently was also interesting, but what really sold me on the exchange was Dev Patel's reaction, and he really didn't know what to say. And it made me wonder if perhaps, God's like, hey, I was just trying something out, I was experimenting, I had no idea it would turn out like this, so, my apologies. And I was like, maybe we're just a grand experiment even to God, and that's why we have some design flaws. So it opened up all these interesting and fascinating doors that I was just so happy to, go down the rabbit hole with the film. So obviously I think it's very well written. The script, in addition to the script, the acting is quite good. I thought the acting was good across the board. I thought Dev Patel, wonderful. Hugh Jackman, I've never seen Hugh Jackman play such a monster before. He would, just to watch him at the climax of the film was just both, you couldn't take your eyes off him, but it was just so sickening. And so kudos to him for showing such range. And then also, I thought that the Die Antwoord duo, Yolanda and Ninja, off the top of my head, I'm not quite sure of their names, sorry, but I am sure of their acting ability. I thought they were great. I've seen a number of people think their characters are unlikable, but I didn't think that was the case. I thought they were difficult circumstances, and they were really fully fleshed out characters. And that's something the cast did across the board. And they not only made the situation seem real, but they showed how quickly things escalated for their characters in terms of the stakes of the situation, but also emotionally, how it changed their thought process and how they felt about each other and Chappie, and also just it was almost like to some degree, these two characters from Die Antwoord, these two criminals, were like in that class where you get a baby and like a fake baby, and it prepares you for parenthood, and to see them adapt to that situation here was really interesting to watch, and the mistakes they made, and when they realized they made a mistake, and when they didn't realize it. That was there was so much, I think, going on beneath the surface here that, unfortunately, if you write the movie off, before you even step foot in the theater, you're not going to realize it. I also thought the special effects were incredibly well done. I thought that they blended seamlessly with the narrative, which was great. Chappie was very well realized. I do want to say, though, on a side note, as I talk about it, I realize that it's a little slow getting off the ground, this movie. It's a little wobbly on its feet. But I think if you just stick with it and you keep an open mind, you'll really be taken for a wonderful trip, a wonderful journey. But again, at the beginning, a little bit sloppy, not quite as slick as you might like it to be, but it gets there. And then also the soundtrack, love the soundtrack. I'm buying the soundtrack. And as far as how much I like this movie, when we're talking about purchasing, I like this movie so much that as soon as I left the theater, literally, I bought tickets to see it again this very weekend. I just enjoyed it so much. But again, I realize that clearly it's not for everyone, and you know what? It might not be for you. But I really think that Chappie is worth your time and giving it a shot. And then, you don't benefit unless you leap, right? So you might find that you love it as much as I do. And if you don't like it, well, it's not unwatchable. So, you've watched plenty of bad movies, I'm sure, before. So what are you really losing? And I wish I could get a sequel, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. And I'm just so disappointed. The ending had me on the edge of my seat. I loved the ending. And I was all ready for a sequel, but I'm just never going to get it, because Sony and Neil Blomkamp just abandoned this movie, and so it'll just have to go on to the next place, as they say in the film. All right, so that's my review of Chappie. If you've seen Chappie, I tweeted how much I liked it last night. I know some of you have already seen it, and I think we're going to have a lot to discuss, because there are those of us who like it and those of us who don't. So let's discuss that in the comments down below. Thank you so much for tuning into my review, and you can check out some more episodes right now.